going to share an easy way to make massive progress in Bujinkan style wrist locks. We have chapters and timestamps in the description below, so feel free to skip ahead to any part that you particularly want to watch. What's the one thing martial arts people can't afford to ignore about wrist locks? Everybody has their specific, most important details, but you could spend years on complicated techniques and never actively work on the single most important element that makes the whole thing actually work. Look, I know this because that's how it was for me for a really long time. Now, Ethan and I were recently training in California with some awesome people. Thank you. Between sessions, we started filming a series on what Bujinkan and similar folks called the Omote Gyaku wrist lock. Now, for everyone else, the fundamental feature of what makes the Omote Gyaku is the supination of that forearm, so that from a palm-up position, the rotation has the palm facing the outside of the same side shoulder and continues turning. That's the one we're talking about. Now, terminology note, any critical element, anything that if it doesn't exist, the technique just isn't that technique anymore, is something that we at Open Budo refer to as a fundamental feature. The science-y folks, though, they will call that an invariant property of whichever skill you're discussing. Now, in Omote Gyaku, one example of an invariant property, a fundamental feature, is maintaining the grip on the hand. Now, think about it. No matter how perfect your technique may appear, if you can't maintain your hold on that person's hand, you might have some fallback technique, something else that works great. But the part you'd label as Omote Gyaku just disappears. Not in some cool ninja way. Look, everyone does some variant on Omote Gyaku, and they all have their own details. And they're all correct in the context they're teaching. But those details, they're the things a teacher can see. They're external. Today, I want you to focus on one of the internal, more invisible details. For the task-based games we're suggesting, you can grip it from above, you can grip it from below, or one-handed or two-handed, or from one side, a Veda planche grip from the other side. In fact, if you want to succeed at the task we're going to suggest, you have to use variety. Exploring is the whole point. And some of those exploratory ideas are spelled out in the free PDF download that's in the description. And if you have a totally different idea that you think we should have included, we don't have a monopoly on good ideas. Please open up the discussion in the comment section below and help us all get better together. Most people, they obsess over the angles and positioning and little tiny nuances while neglecting the foundation. It's a discussion for another video, but grinding out repetition after repetition, not only is that a less effective strategy for skill building than we've all been taught it was, it isn't even representative of the just as important cultural piece that we thought we were doing the whole time. That's not really the way that we all loved so much back when we all got started. And we talk a whole bunch about that in other videos. And if you want to catch future discussions, just hit the like and subscribe buttons and you won't miss any of those. Here we go. We're about to use the traditional Shuhari model of training applied to the Gyokoryu Torite Kihongata, number 1. Or for the Jinenkan folks, it's numbers 1 and 2. But in any case, we're not at all following the patterns the way that they're written out for memorization purposes. Now, please, keep your notes. Those are the historical pieces to pass along to the next generation of trainees. But they're not a path or training for skill development. So, am I saying there's a better way to train than just mindlessly repeating the same movement patterns? Heck yes, I am. And This is where the constraints-led approach comes in. And really, it's changing how we think about skill development, particularly in martial arts. So instead of drilling the entire lock 1,000 times, isolate that fundamental feature or the invariant property of maintaining a grip. Solid, controlling grip, and make that the central challenge. For phase 1, start with a fully established grip, however you want to try it for that moment. One-handed, two-handed, above, below, more on the fingers, more on the main part of the hand, or more on the wrist. Challenge your current assumptions as if you're trying to prove yourself wrong. Or explore and prove yourself right. Your goal is simple. Keep a hold of that hand. Your partner's goal is pretty simple too. Pull their hand out of your grip. That's it. So you can mix and match the logistics of it to match your training model. You can do it X number of times per person, or over and over again for some predetermined amount of time. You can go back and forth. Each time your partner escapes your grip, they grab your hand, and you escape their grip and grab their hand. Now do the other hand, or do it with a different grip, and then try another grip from a different direction. Look, there's another video set for the next set of Torite Kihongata, where the attacker has other ways of resisting. Now, watch that one too, but this version isn't done yet. If you want to keep just this Kihon Kata improving, you can scale the difficulty to accommodate different nerd words, individual capacity, levels of skill, experience, power, agility. So an example, it might be the person gets his hand free and then has to launch a punching or pushing attack with that same hand. And the other person can now react with whatever chosen kata you wanted them to practice in the first place. Starting your kata practice this way will add automatically real timing, real angles, real starting positions from within the middle of a real physical struggle. That is already so much better than typical training. And it's just as safe, it's cooperative, it's planned out as much as usual. You could and probably should try this kind of add-on training with different clothing, different surfaces, different footwear, and you get the idea. This variety-centric model is grounded in an approach known as differential learning, and it adds high value for skill building, along with keeping things constantly fresh and interesting. So you and your training partners and your students will get way more skill development out of this and feel so much more excited and interested in training. That second part, the excitement, is what keeps classes fun and keeps classes full. Look, the point here is when you focus on mastering this one fundamental feature, this one invariant property, everything else just becomes significantly more effective. Now, problem, this will feel a little frustrating at first. Good. Because if it's messy, it's learning, not performance. But more on that in another video. You're going to immediately be able to analyze and fix what most traditional training gets totally wrong about something as critical as wrist locks. They're not just rigid sequences to memorize, and they're adaptable skills that rely on core principles that you can directly practice. Okay, if you're trying to copy the exact movement of your teacher, or maybe your teacher's teacher, like when you're practicing a historical kata for authenticity, well, yes, it's obviously fine to focus on the precision of the sequence in that case. But even for that, keeping the grip is a non-negotiable constant. It makes or breaks your ability to do Omote Gyaku of any kind in any kata. With appropriately variable, grip-focused training, you can maintain control even when your opponent is actively focusing on just trying to escape. And you can complete the Omote Gyaku part of that almost whenever you feel like it. Using the sciencey terms, this approach develops a functional individual capacity. It's really one that the traditional copy-paste style of repetitive drills just can't match. So adopt a Socratic method and aim it inwards a little bit. Challenge yourself and ask, okay, well, what if everything I've been taught about how to do martial arts practice is backwards? Or think differently, as Tim Ferriss likes to ask himself. What would happen if I did the exact opposite for a while? So open up some conversations, please. Let's all get better together. Add your ideas in the comment section below. Truth is, most instructors just have you repeat the full sequence, endlessly, hoping that something is going to stick. And whether they know it or not, they're counting on nerve myelination or on the nerve sheath to make the reactions feel instinctive and turn them into muscle memory. No. That's not even what the Budo model of Japanese martial arts suggests in the first place. So this is the real bonus. Ask now, what if the classical martial arts teachers we respect so much were totally right about using shuhari, and that mastery comes from breaking the techniques down to their fundamental features and practicing those. In this case, by isolating the grip first, and you build the foundation that the rest of it builds on. Now, this challenges typical methods, but I don't think you're trying to be typical. Run the experiment and let your results, over time, speak for themselves. We're really just scratching the surface of how the constraints-led approach can transform your use of shuhari in martial arts training. Now, next time, in this series, we'll show how to use the hardcore pressure testing in the other Gyokuryu Torite Kihongata against a much more resisting opponent. Before we see you there, please remember to grab your copy of our introductory Omote Gyaku games. It's a free PDF download in the description. We're really trying to build as many resources as we can and share them within our community. Now go train, and remember, we were told to play.